Hello, one and all, and welcome back to the Douglas Podcast, the only podcast where I sit in front of a camera and look down the entire time, because that's how I collect my thoughts. Thank you all for joining. This episode, we are going to be talking about a request by my fiance. We'll be talking about jean sizes, vanity sizings, the clothing industry, mostly pant sizes, but just all around that stuff. But before we get into that, I want to thank today's sponsor. This episode of the Douglas Podcast is sponsored by the patriarchy. Do you like the systematic oppression of women? Do you enjoy systems being put in place that make women feel worse about themselves so they spend more money? And the patriarchy is for you. Anyways, let's get into it. So I don't know if you've ever been shopping with a woman, shopping for pants, but it's kind of confusing. And to just give a general background, because anyone could be listening to this, for men, the sizes are pretty straightforward. You have the waist size by the pant size, the length of the pants. So for example, you'd be like, oh, I'm a size like 30-31, which means 30 inches around the waist and 31 inches is the length of the pants. And you can have multiple ones. Like you could have, it depends on the store you go to, but it's not like a scale that goes up in one direction. It's more like a graph. The only thing that's coming to mind to compare it to is like bra sizes, but I know it's not the same. But in the sense of like, you can have multiple different pants with the same waist size and different leg size. Like you can have 30-31, 29-31, 32-31. They don't go as all over because there's usually a correlation, but there's just a big spectrum of stuff. Women's sizing, however, is a little bit different because women's sizing is just a number, and the number varies depending on what store you go to, and it's no correlation at all with the waist size. There's correlation, but it's not the same number. So like you might be like a 14 at one store, or like a 29 at others, or like a 12 at a different store, and it's very difficult to know what pant size you really are because they're not really based on the waist size. Even women's pants that seem like they are, the ones that are like, oh, you're a size 28, 29, 30, those are still not directly based on the circumference of the waist. Those are just modified. Like a size like 30 could mean that you have like a 32-inch waist. You don't know. It's not one-to-one like that, and it depends on each store. And where this issue rears its ugly head the most is vanity sizing, which, for those of you that don't know, vanity sizing, it exists for men's pants too, but mostly for women's pants. They scale the number down so that you're a lower size at that store. So like some stores, like the lowest size they'll sell is like a 4. Other stores, it'll be a 0. Some stores, it'll be a 000. And those all would mean the same waist size. And what it does is you're obviously, for most people, not going to be getting the smallest size there. But what's going to end up happening is like, oh, you're usually most places like a size 16, and you go to this one store and you're a size 14 or a size 12, and that makes you feel really good about yourself because you're led to believe like, oh, I must have lost weight, I must be like, my pant size must be smaller, this is great, this makes me feel great, I'm gonna buy these pants. And that's what it is, and we'll get more into my opinions on that in the opinion section. But it's really not great. I do have some notes pulled up for this one, some charts of different ones, For one store, their smallest is a size 0 for a waist circumference of 23.5, and say like, so their size 10, 31 inches. Now there's another one where their smallest size is 000, and the waist size is 24 to 24 and a half. And that same one, that 31 inches would be like a size 29. So you can, or sorry, not a size 9 or a size 8. And so you can see where the issue comes in is that these are pretty close to each other, to where you could reasonably go from like, oh, in this store I'm a size 10, but this, like, weeks later when I go to this store I'm a size 9. Ooh, I feel good about myself. I'm gonna buy these pants. And just to further illustrate my point about that, another metric, for example, a size 29, waist size 30. Size 30, waist size 31. It's like a number off, so you still don't know exactly what waist size you are. And I'm sure if you went up to most men and they were like, hey, how big is your waist? They'd say that they're like, what their pants size? Like, oh, I'm 31 inches. I'm 35 inches. Like, however, but if you went to a woman and asked, they'd be like, oh, I'm a size 6, I'm a size 8. And that could mean wildly different things depending on what store you're going to. And it makes things more difficult, and there's no like system in place to help like regulate this. There's no like department that's like, okay, all pant sizes must go to this standard sizing, which I think there should be. I think that would make it a lot easier. Even the simple like small, medium, and large can vary from store to store. It varies wildly, and it just makes it hard to know what size you are. And I am getting a little bit into my opinion, but I'm gonna cut myself off there, because before we get into the opinion section, I'd like to take a brief pause and a break. For those of you that don't know, this podcast was designed for my fiance to help her fall asleep, because she has trouble sleeping sometimes, and she really likes falling asleep to keyboard sounds. So I'd like to play for you 2 minutes uninterrupted of keyboard sounds. Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed those keyboard sounds. And now to get into my opinion on all this. My opinion is that this is pretty messed up and a symptom of like capitalism and sexism, patriarchy. Those are just a bunch of buzzwords. What do I actually mean? Women's clothing stores are designed to specifically emotionally manipulate you into buying more clothes. You are supposed to enter the store feeling bad about yourself. Then, when you try on their clothing, you feel better about yourself. And because you then associate these pants make me feel good, so now I'm going to buy them because I want to feel good. And it plays off of a lot of things, and the reason why I call it systematic oppression, I don't know if I'm fully qualified to use all these words, but the systems in place to emotionally manipulate all this are there, because women, its appearance is very heavily pushed upon women, far more than men. That's just a fact. Man, that is getting very political. I'm sorry. It's women are pressured to look a certain way more than men, and a lot of their feelings and identity is attached to the way they look for the purpose of being exploited by companies selling clothing. That's why even in other things like underwear, like the most comfortable underwear is called granny panties. The comfortable stuff that feels the best is meant to sort of shame you, and the more like revealing and like uncomfortable stuff is like named better and like more promoted, and it makes you want to buy that. Same thing with like pockets. Pockets are a very big thing because women's pants have very small pockets, if pockets at all. They used to have pockets way back in the day, but now they don't, to encourage women to buy purses and handbags so that they can carry their stuff. A guy's pocket is super deep. In one pocket, I can fit my wallet, keys, earbuds. My other one, I put two phones in it because I sometimes carry my fiance's phone. And for my fiance's pants, if she can fit her phone in her pocket, she's like, wow, that's incredible. So that's the vast difference between that. And it carries on to pant sizes. Like I was saying before, when you put on those pants, you feel good, and so you will buy them. And that's what they want. That's how they get you. That's why fitting rooms in stores, they always have like the best lighting, music softer. It's meant to be very calming, relaxing, so you feel better. Because in the rest of the store, harsh light, crowded, all that stuff, meant to make you feel bad. There's even some examples where mirrors in fitting rooms are designed a certain way to make you look slimmer when you're in there, so that when you're in their fitting rooms trying on clothes, you're like, wow, this clothing makes me look so slim. I'm gonna buy it because it makes me look better. When in reality, it's just the way the mirror's curved. And it's terrible. It's super manipulative, and it's just awful. And it's something that women deal with all the time that men don't really have to deal with. I go to buy my jeans, and it's very simple. I pick the pair of jeans that says the numbers that correlate with my waist size and leg size, and then I purchase them. No sort of manipulation or anything like that, because it's not designed for that. Society hasn't put that strong of a pressure on men about their appearance, so if they didn't like how they felt in something, they wouldn't get it. If they liked how they felt in something, they probably also wouldn't get it. There's been multiple times where I tried something on, I liked it, I just didn't feel like buying it. And I don't mean to go be like I'm just built better, I'm built different. Like, no, it's wholly to do with manipulation, and vanity sizes are just a part of this. You put on the vanity sized clothes, you feel better because you feel like you've lost weight, you feel good about yourself, and then you buy the clothes. And that's just how it is. And not to mention how expensive women's clothing is, because, if you're already marketing towards the people that are gonna buy the clothes, you might as well make that more expensive too. This is why I call it systematic, because it's systematically in place, all these things working against you to make you buy more things. Buy more jewelry, buy more hair products, buy more clothing, buy a purse so you can carry your stuff in. And it's not really fair. It's not really just. And it's very hard to undo. As most systematic things are, it has just become that way, and it is continued on generation to generation. Women growing up are still put pressure about their appearances, and they will still continue to be manipulated by these things because they tap into deep set judgments and values that have been put on them for a young age. Did you know that in the early 1900s, dresses were meant for men? There's a picture of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was president during the Great Depression in the 1920s and a little bit afterwards, and he's wearing a dress. Because when he grew up, okay, so maybe it was more like the late 1800s, but 1800s and before, they were meant to be very, breathable and maneuverable. They're supposed to be like a clothing that you could run around in and stuff, like kilts. Very, again, maneuverable. And since then, dresses have become a women's clothing, and there has been pressure put on that to wear more and more revealing dresses that fit tighter and tighter. And it is just a symptom of a larger issue of women's clothing being designed to just emotionally manipulate you into buying more clothes. And that's just what it is. And anyways, that is my opinion on all this. Feel free to share yours in the comments. But we're going to move on to our next segment, which is Douglas Talks About Video Games. But before that, we're going to take a brief break for 2 minutes of me saying Bella's name to calm her to sleep. Bella. 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 All right, thank you so much for listening to that. Hope you enjoyed that. And now we're going to move on to a different topic where I get to talk about whatever video game I want to talk about because this is my podcast. I'm the one in charge. This episode, I would like to talk about a game that I first discovered playing with my family, and it's a very fun game, and I have since shown it to my fiance and her family, and they also are addicted to this game. It is called Ultimate Chicken Horse. And for those of you that don't know what the game is, essentially, you choose from a variety of characters. There's a raccoon, chicken, horse. You see that? There's a turtle, snake. There's a bunch of them. And you select a level, and the level itself, it's a very simple, you start at one end and you have to get to the end point. Now, the level itself may have its own tricks and challenges, traps, falls, whatever, but where the fun part is that each round you get to pick a piece. It can either be something that'll help you, like a platform, a staircase, like a conveyor belt, or a trap. Something like that shoots out arrows, or like a cannon, spike trap. And basically, it's a very short level. It's like, it fills up like the screen is the level. It's mostly about like trying to make it so that you can do it and other people cannot. Because if everyone gets to the end, nobody gets any points. But if even one person dies on the way there, everyone's going to get points. The person who gets there first gets extra points. If the person who placed the trap that kills the other person gets extra points. And it's great because every game is really different because it all depends on what you place down there. You can very easily make it totally impossible to beat the level, and that's fine because if nobody beats it, nobody gets points. And there are pieces as well, like dynamite and stuff that can like basically erase what other people have placed. So there's never a situation where it's like, well, now the game's unbeatable and now we're just stuck here. So every game is a little bit different because of all the traps and stuff you play, and it's you get like a limited random selection from that you pick from, and it's like first person, like first come first serve. Like you get like a selection of like 6 objects, and whoever clicks on one of those objects first, they get that object, and it goes till everyone gets it. Everyone places down their objects, and you run through to see if you can make it to the end. And that's a pretty fun game. It's, I don't want to call it a simple game. It's definitely not a super complex game. The mechanics are very easy, but especially because you keep building upon what you've done. So the closer and closer you get to the end of the game, the more complex it gets, the more like split seconds jumps and landing on like a single space. So it definitely does get pretty complex to the point where, you know, some people who are skilled at like platformer games, or you can like it's like a platformer game, kind of like in the vein of like Super Mario Maker, except where it's like a group project and you all have to do it. But some people who are skilled at that may have an easier time than the people who are not. But it's not like a your reaction time versus other people's reaction time. Like a lot of like first person shooters, battle royale, it's like if you're slow or bad at the video games, you're just gonna lose every single time. There's no time limit, so you can take as long as you want to finish. Again, if you're not first, then you get less points. But say like everyone else has died, you can take as much time as you want to get to the end. And if you're the only one who survives, you get even more points, which is pretty great. And yeah, I really enjoy that game. I really enjoy playing it with people, and it's very addicting. It's can start quite a few fights because you get mad at other people for placing traps that made you die. But yeah, overall, it's quite an enjoyable game, and I would totally recommend it for everyone to play. And I don't really have much else to say on that. So, on that note, this will be the end of this episode of the Douglas Podcast. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you all fell asleep. I hope you all are not awake. But if you are still awake, feel free to check out the playlist. I've got all the other episodes on there. If you enjoyed, please hit that like button, subscribe, and if there's anything you want me to talk about, could be big topics at the beginning, could just be a video game you want me to talk about, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to mention it in the next episode. But for now, thank you all for listening. I love all of you, and good night.